someone is in a sympathetic dominant state and is trying to balance their autonomic nervous system by decreasing their sympathetic tone or increasing parasympathetic tone, moving towards the parasympathetic effect more, there is a bunch of things that can be done. And at the top of that list would be various different relaxation techniques. And in particular, and this is so interesting, breathing techniques in particular seem to be a useful access point for either branch of the autonomic nervous system. If you're trying to increase parasympathetic tone, box breathing can be very useful. You can Google it, but suffice to say, box breathing is you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then wait 4 seconds before you take the next inhale, right? So 4 sides like a box. And that has been shown to lower heart rate and blood pressure, right? Parasympathetic effect. Easy to do for a minute or two throughout the day if you are a sympathetic dominant individual. Good to know. But another thing that is helpful for the sympathetic dominant individual is brief but intense exercise, provided your doctor's okay with that. You have to always put a disclaimer in, right? Don't do anything that might cause a problem ever. That's an aside, but intense exercise that forces you into a really dominant sympathetic state, and then when you're done, allows you to regress back into a more parasympathetic resting state than you were before you started the exercise. So intense exercise, even for a brief period of time, can actually be very helpful. The main parasympathetic nerve in the body is called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, it controls heart rate. It has a lot to do with various different parasympathetic effects and is something actually that you can influence through things like humming or chanting or singing. It's a good idea to sing. Who cares what it sounds like? Go do karaoke for your parasympathetic nervous system. It seems to improve blood pressure and stress levels. Also, believe it or not, gargling water has a parasympathetic effect. So if you're sympathetic dominant, that might help. And cold exposure, believe it or not, is a great way to calm the sympathetic nervous system and put you into a more parasympathetic state. Either getting into cold water, an immersive cold therapy technique, or there are dry forms of cold therapy available in most cities now. I go to a business called Icebox, and they put you in I call it the meat locker. They put you into an ice box, and it's very cold in there for 3 minutes. You can do anything for 3 minutes. And boy, is that invigorating. And it really, I find, helps with recovery after exercise. That takes longer as you get older. I like to do it just before I work out. Some people do it after. I find that to be very helpful indeed. Calming physical activity like meditation. I like transcendental meditation. Some people find other forms of meditation I don't really have an opinion about. Which particular technique someone uses. Mindfulness seems to be good for people that practice it regularly. And it doesn't take forever. Start with 5 minutes once a day. You can do that. The TM crowd says 20 minutes twice a day. And ultimately you end up doing that because you realize it feels so good. It makes you feel so much better. And I believe has been demonstrated to improve the health of our cardiovascular system, that you want to do it more. 20 minutes twice a day doesn't seem so burdensome. So that's something to think about. And I know if you're sympathetic dominant, you're thinking, I'm too stressed to meditate. I get it. You don't feel like relaxing because you're vigilant, right? So you have to make a conscious decision to get better. But what about diet? Can you adjust your autonomic balance through the things you eat and drink? Well, to an extent you can. Now, it might seem intuitive and obvious that eliminating or limiting caffeine would be beneficial to someone in a chronic sympathetic dominant state. And a lot of people that are living sympathetic dominant all the time will self-medicate with alcohol, because it does, for a short period of time, put you into a very pleasant parasympathetic state. But the rebound effect, just a few hours later, puts you into a resting state that is more sympathetic than you were to begin with. So it's not a functional solution for sympathetic dominance. That is not a sustainable solution. And so eliminating or greatly limiting alcohol is probably the right thing to do if you are sympathetic dominant and trying to improve on that. What about emotional intelligence? This is something that is vital but hard to come by. And so it might be that speaking to a therapist, becoming more sensitive to what your emotional state is. A lot of people that when they are in a chronic state, it's just their normal. They couldn't even tell you if they were stressed. They couldn't even tell you if they're parasympathetic dominant. It is just the way they are. This is what reality is to them. This is what life is to them. Through certain techniques, you can become more self-aware, more sensitive to what your emotional state is, which gives you the opportunity, opens the window that would allow you to then make changes that would put you into a more favorable, more happy, more healthy autonomic balance. We can easily cultivate a more parasympathetic environment, right? What does that mean? Like, if we're sympathetic dominant, and we're trying to do something about that, we might cut back on the death metal we listen to, right? Maybe Chopin Nocturnes makes more sense for you. Give it a try. There are things we can do, because whatever our environment is, we're going to react to it, right? We're going to react to that environment, and either it's going to perpetuate the state we're in, or it's going to foster change towards a state we'd like to be in. So think about that.